Sometimes the biggest lessons in life don't come from a classroom. They come from those moments that just completely knock you off your feet. This is a story about one of those moments. Let that sink in for a second. That's a quote from a father, Dan Everett, describing a single moment in time. Just pure gut-wrenching pain. So what caused that feeling? Well, it was the moment he learned his son, Max, had autism. But the pain wasn't just about the diagnosis. No, it was about the fantasy he'd built in his head of what being a dad would be like, and watching it just shatter in an instant. But then, right in the middle of that crisis, something else happened.
How is that possible? Well, that moment of total devastation actually became a catalyst. It didn't just break him, it broke him open. It set him on a path of discovery that would literally change everything for him.
That one single, heart-stabbing moment kicked off a quest that lasted almost 30 years. A journey to figure out how our brains process the world around us. And it led him to a really profound discovery about what it actually means to listen. Okay, so most of us know the basics, right? We've heard of active listening, where you're trying to understand the other person's facts and their logic. And we've definitely heard of empathetic listening, where you're tuning into their feelings by paying attention to their tone and body language. Both are super important skills, but they have one thing in common. The focus is always looking outward at the other person. And here is the game changer, reflective listening. It uses all those same tools. You're still paying attention to facts, to feelings, to triggers, but, and this is the big deal, it flips the camera around. It turns the lens back on you. It forces you to ask, wait, what's my point of view here? What are the assumptions I'm making? And why did that comment just trigger me so much? To really get this, there's a simple, but honestly, brilliant metaphor that makes it all click. Just think of any conversation you have as looking through a window. So active and empathetic listening, that's you looking through the window to see and understand the other person. But reflective listening adds a whole other dimension. It's about taking a moment to look at the window itself, to see your own reflection staring back at you. It's about noticing your own reactions, your own biases, your own part in the dynamic, all while you're still looking at them. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a nice self-help trick, but this is so much bigger than that. This skill might just be one of the most critical things we need to navigate the world we're living in right now. Get this, the World Economic Forum, the people who analyze the biggest threats on the planet, they've put societal polarization in the top 5 global risks for 2025. We are being pulled apart, and it turns out there's a hidden engine driving it. This is the chilling part. It's not happening by accident. The very way our digital world is designed, especially our social media feeds, is actively, neurologically rewiring our brains for conflict. Think about the cycle. It's kind of vicious. First, the algorithm feeds you stuff that confirms everything you already think. Yep, I knew I was right. Then it shows you something outrageous from the other side to make you angry, to make you defend yourself. And every time you react, every time you type that angry comment, you are literally strengthening the pathways in your brain for that hair-trigger defensive reaction. And that learned reaction, it doesn't stay online. It spills out into our real lives with our real friends, family, and coworkers. So, if we're being programmed to just react, how do we break free? How do we stop the cycle? Well, the good news is there's a really practical tool you can use right in the heat of the moment. It's an acronym. F-L-A-R. FLAR. FLAR is all about creating a tiny pause, a circuit breaker, between the trigger and your reaction. It's 4 simple steps. First, F, feel. Actually feel the physical sensation. Is your chest tight? Is your face getting hot? Second, L, label it. Give it a name. Anger, frustration, sad. Just naming it gives you back some control. Third, A, assess. Ask yourself, does my reaction actually fit what's happening right now? And finally, R, reframe. Look for another way to see the situation. Let's make this real. Let me tell you about a little story called the orange juice incident. We have all been here, where some tiny little thing sets off a huge reaction. So Dan Everett is trying to get ready for work, he's in a rush, and his son Max spills an entire gallon of orange juice all over the floor. Dan's first instinct? He snaps. Total frustration. But then Max says something that just stops him cold. I just wanted to do it myself. That's the pause. And in that tiny moment, Dan uses floor. He feels the anger. He labels it frustration. He assesses. Okay, being a few minutes late to work is not the end of the world. And that lets him reframe the whole thing. This isn't a disaster. It's a teaching moment.
And what that story really shows us is that this whole practice isn't just about managing your emotions. It's about a completely different kind of strength. It's about redefining what it means to be courageous.
We usually think courage is all external, right? It's speaking up, fighting the good fight, being loud and proud. And it is. That is absolutely courage. But there's another kind, a quieter internal courage. It's the courage to actually listen when all you want to do is argue. The courage to try and understand when you just want to defend yourself. The courage to look at your own reflection in that window and not look away. I love this question. What if the rawest form of courage isn't about being strong and invulnerable? What if it's about being vulnerable? The courage to admit you might be wrong, and the courage to see how you yourself are contributing to the very conflict you're in. So here's the challenge. Here's how you can start using this like tonight. The next time you're in a tough conversation, when you feel that heat rising and you're about to jump in, just pause and ask yourself this one powerful question. Am I only focused on them, looking through the window at what they're doing wrong? Or am I taking a second to look at the glass and see my own reflection in it?
Because in the end, that's what this is all about. It's not a choice. It's not one or the other. True understanding, true connection, it happens when we can do both. When we can see other people clearly and have the courage to truly see ourselves.